Welcome. Today we're going to take a look at logical appeals. These are tools that writers and speakers use to argue a point. So let's take a look at the first one here. Our first one is logos. So this is an appeal to use of claims, evidence, and logic to convince an audience. Okay, so you're sticking to this idea of logic. The way that you do this is you want to provide factual evidence. All right, these are the kinds of facts that are verifiable, the kinds of things like statistics and data, expert viewpoints. All right, so people who are working in that field, people who have studied in that field, they've got masters and PhDs. Professional observations and scientific outcomes. You also want to include things like thoughtful and clear claims, not the kind of things where people have to figure out what you're trying to say, but things that are very clear, and clear and logical reasons. Again, you don't want your reader or your listener trying to figure out what you're saying, but rather you want to be very clear, very logical. And you also want to include reasonable qualifiers to support your claim. So why are you including this claim? You want that to be very reasonable for people. You also want to acknowledge that there is an opposing view and offer facts to refute those views, okay? You want to do that in a non-emotional, thoughtful manner. All right, so that's logos for you. Let's take a look at the next one, which is pathos. So with pathos, what you're doing is that you're appealing to the audience's emotions, particularly in ethical manner, okay? So on this, you are still going to depend upon logical support. So you're not going to go completely emotional here. You're still going to be leaning on logic. You want to make sure that you're clarifying points by offering explanations and imagery to descriptions. So for example, if you can offer a description that offers an example that can back up your claim, that can help with pathos. You can also include thoughtful choices of words to appeal to people's best emotional responses. Again, we are doing this in an ethical manner, so we're not trying to tap into negative emotions. You also want to create a positive connection with the reader. The kinds of things you want to appeal to are those positive emotions, ideas, values, morals, humor, and you want to also include balance and fairness and not manipulation. All right, so that's pathos for you. And the last one we're going to cover today is ethos. So ethos is where you're appealing to establish that the writer, which is you or the speaker, if you're creating a speech, is honest, forthcoming, intelligent, and academically qualified to communicate on this topic. So let's say that I've got a PhD in history. I shouldn't then go talking about new medical advances because that's not my area of expertise. I shouldn't then go write about engine modifications on cars because, again, that's not my expertise. If I've got a PhD in history, that's where I should be writing. So you want to make sure that you are being ethical and that you are communicating about topics that you know about and that you have solid information about. You want to always give an honest and straightforward presentation. You want to have a voice that is well informed, that's not depending upon falsified information or conspiracies or anything like that. You want to give out truth. You want to have a sincere and confident tone, but without being pretentious. There's kind of a line there. Don't want to be pretentious. Don't want to speak over people. You want to try to be considerate of diverse viewpoints. I know that this can really be a challenge, but the more that you can understand that there are opposing viewpoints and to address those with seriousness, the stronger that your claim will be. And not only that, but you'll come across as being more thoughtful and intelligent as a speaker and as a writer. Here are the things you don't want to do for any of these: logos, pathos, and ethos. You don't want to manipulate facts, thoughts, or emotions. That's not ethical behavior. We don't want to do that. You don't want to lean upon stereotypes, especially when you're talking about underrepresented minority groups. You don't want to distort the truth or misuse information. And you don't want to include any kind of unfair, dishonest, or misrepresentation. Okay? You don't want to fall into being insulting, dismissive, or intolerant. And if you spend 5 minutes on the internet, you'll find that of where people are very insulting, dismissive, and intolerant to each other sometimes, especially in comment sections. So avoid that. You also want to make sure that you're not including overgeneralized claims or vague ideas that lack specific examples. You want to make sure that you are giving specific examples and examples that are true and have scientific data, statistic, evidence that can back those up. You don't want to depend upon logical fallacies, which are a whole series of things that people can do in writing or speaking that is purposefully manipulative. And you also don't want to fail to address the opposing viewpoint. You want to go ahead and address the opposing viewpoint, acknowledge that an opposing viewpoint exists and that that's okay that it exists, but you have a different view to share. So, logical appeals, the better that you can learn logos, pathos, and ethos, the stronger that your writing and speaking can be. I hope this information is helpful to you.